The Toledo Speedway hosts the first of 2 consecutive races in Ohio for the AST Voltson Super Trucks. And leading the field to the green flag will be Michael McKinley in the 99M for the 2nd time this season in only the 3rd race. This is McKinley's 8th career pole award, and starting on his outside is Jason Miller in truck number 40, who will be making his final start today until Terre Haute in August. 3rd place qualifier Jack Clark, the hometown hero in the 789 truck, also got a good start. He's going to go to the inside of Miller and try to follow McKinley through on the inside lane. As McKinley clears Miller for the lead, Clark takes over the 2nd position, and now he is right on the bumper of the 99M. McKinley leaves the bottom open off at turn number 4, and here comes Clark for the lead. Jack Clark trying to take the lead on the 3rd lap of the race in front of his home crowd, and he's going to clear the 99M off at turn 2, an impressive feat considering how impressive that McKinley has been in this series. The 99M is then going to lose the 2nd spot to Jason Miller, who makes a run back at him on the inside and moves back up into the 2nd position. Kevin Thompson started the race from the 4th position. The 90 truck is having by far its best season that it has ever run, and he just barely scrapes the wall off at turn 2. I was just about to state that he's been slowly dropping through the field, stuck on the outside lane since the start, and he goes into the wall off at turn 4 again with a bit of a shove from Daniela Jacobson. Everybody behind him checks up in time to avoid crashing. Both of the Jackson siblings were running right behind him. Brianna Princehorn in the 7 truck started the race from the final row on the grid. Very disappointing qualifying run from another hometown driver. And as a result of Thompson hitting the wall and the field stacking up, she's going to have to let off the throttle and lose a lot of the position she just gained. She moved up through a 3rd of the field in the first 5 laps, but is now back to the 20th spot. And running right behind her is the 96 truck of Chris Washer, who is making his first start in the AST Voltson Super Trucks since 2014. Washer, of course, won this very race in that season. He spent the last few months racing in Europe in the Dash Cup Aspira Junior Series, but once that season comes to a close in the next few weeks, he will be back in the AST Voltson Super Trucks for the remainder of its season. And going 3 wide with Wilson Timothy and Alex DeFranco, the 61 and the 95 run up into each other off the corner and go into the wall. On board, Evan Bradley, who is not having a very good run in the first race in her own state. Looking just ahead, it looked like Wilson Timothy tried to force a 3 wide move, and off the corner there wasn't enough room for him and DeFranco on the outside. They both go into the wall, but are going to continue on without much apparent damage. Here are a trio of trucks who have been working their way through the field since the start. Danny Vigo, Hunter Blaze, and Zach Churchill qualified nose to tail on the inside lane and have held formation since the start, working their way up into the top 10 from the midfield. That is until Zach Churchill goes to the inside of Blaze and takes the 8th position from him. This is Blaze's best track in the series if you look at it statistically. He's qualified on the front row and finished in the top 3 in this race each of the past 2 seasons. A bit further ahead of them, in 4th place, we find Camden Rhodes in the 62 car, having the best run of his career. This is, of course, only his 4th start, but Rhodes doing much better than he has in the first 2 races of this season, not that far behind his boss Jason Miller, and only right behind Michael McKinley for 3rd. The battle for 6th is on between Danny Vigo and John Bennett. Bennett having a pretty good start here today after winning at MIS on debut last month. Danny Vigo scored his first career victory at this very racetrack last year, so it's no surprise to see Vigo marching his way towards the front as he approaches the top 5 runners. Speaking of drivers who are off to a good start this year, Brian Kelly, coming off of a pair of top 10 finishes to open his season, is running in 5th and going for 4th on the inside of Camden Rhodes. And through turn 2, he slides up in front of the 62 truck, putting the slide job on him to complete the pass. That's not a move you see made very often on these paved tracks. But Rhodes wants the 4th spot back, peeking to the inside in turns 1 and 2, and gets just close enough to the 6 to get the line through the turn. These 2 drivers made their debut last year at Terre Haute together, where they very much impressed, and they're continuing to impress here today as they battle for the 4th position. And speaking of battles for position, it looks like we're about to have one for the lead. Jason Miller has caught up to Jack Clark, who has been sliding up the track as the race goes on. The handling perhaps starting to fade on the 789 truck, but Miller can't find his way around him just yet. Gordon Davis in truck number 32 is going to get into the back of Daniela Jacobson and spin her into the inside wall down the backstretch, and as they careen back up the track in turn 3, Nick Moss gets collected, as well as Heaven Bradley. The day going from bad to worse for Bradley. Really, for all four of these drivers, they were running very far towards the back. Looking at the replay, Jacobson runs wide off the corner, but Davis basically drives right into her. He didn't leave her any room and turns her to the inside. This is not the first time that Davis has wrecked Jacobson either. He took both of them out of the qualifying race for Wisconsin Dells last year, and he also caused the first caution of this race last year by wrecking Hunter Blaze while he was running a lap down. He got himself a penalty in the 2014 finale at Berlin by wrecking Zach Churchill, his points rival, which ultimately cost him the title. Come to think of it, Gordon Davis has made a lot of reckless maneuvers in this series. It's a bit surprising to think of considering how fast he is, but this is yet another one to add to the list. All four trucks will be able to continue on, however. Jack Clark leads on the restart. Michael McKinley runs a bit wide in turn number 2. Camden Rhodes and Brian Kelly seem to follow him up the track, and Danny Vigo's going to go for 5th, taking it to the inside of Brian Kelly, and now going for the inside of his teammate Camden Rhodes in an effort to move up into 4th spot. But they take the yellow flag. The caution's out 1 lap after the restart, and we're going to have to see what brought that out. Brianna Prinzhorn, who's worked her way back up into the 18th spot again, bounces off the wall on turn 2 and spins sideways down the backstretch, but everybody fortunately misses her. A close call there for Prinzhorn. She's not going to receive much damage, but she is going to be set back once again. Collectively, she's passed cars about 12 or 16 times in this race, only to fall back to last. And on the restart, Jack Clark drives up into the wall. Jason Miller hits the back of him, and both of them step out, but they fortunately keep it under control, and they're actually not going to lose any positions. Clark retains the lead, but it's not a mistake of his own the next lap, but rather a move from Jason Miller that is going to allow the 40 car to challenge him for the lead. Miller back on the inside of the 79, but Clark is putting up a good fight on the outside lane. The outside can work at this track. The inside is generally preferred, however, and it appears to be again in this instance as Jason Miller moves into the lead. Miller, of course, won the first 2 races of last season, which were also the first 2 races of his career in the AST Voltson Super Trucks, and the first 2 of 4 consecutive wins for Operation JM. In the several races that he's run since, he hasn't been back to victory lane, but he is coming off a 3rd place finish at Flat Rock. Miller's teammates Camden Rhodes and Danny Vigo in the meantime are battling with Zach Churchill for the 5th position. Vigo falls back a bit and into the clutches of Hunter Blaze as Churchill continues to try and get around the 62 truck. Churchill, Prinzhorn's teammate who also has a lot of experience in this track, having a great run here today, and here comes Hunter Blaze down to the inside. Blaze, the 17-year-old driver for Gravity Racing Incorporated, is actually doing double duty this season between the AST Voltson Super Trucks and the Bar Super Pro Series. He is going to be a rookie in that season. He, again, historically does very well at this track, as he tries to go to the inside of Zach Churchill and take the 5th spot from him. Blaze has had very good starting spots the last 2 years, but today he's had to work for this running position. And Brian Kelly now making a move to the inside of Michael McKinley for 3rd. McKinley has been holding station in 3rd all day, and now Kelly gets around him, pulling at a slide job once again. It's very interesting to see Kelly use that maneuver, but it's worked out for him so far every time that he's used it. And car number 6 now runs 3rd. Brianna Prinzhorn trying once again to work her way through the field. She didn't pit to change tires after that slide of hers, but it doesn't appear to have slowed her down as she slowly begins to work her way forward. There you see Jeffrey Jackson and John Bennett, the 500 and the 58 trucks running right in front of her. They have fallen off a lot since the start of the race. Both of them were initially running in the top half of the field, but now find themselves towards the back. The damaged number 57 truck of Daniela Jacobson hits the pit lane. Jacobson had been running on pace with the rest of the field, but apparently there are some more repairs that were needed to be made. This is going to move Heaven Bradley in the 77 truck up from 24th to 23rd in the running order. Bradley finally running in a position other than last, but it's a very lonely 23rd place for her as she is well behind the other damaged truck of Nick Moss. Zach Churchill running in 5th and trying to get around Michael McKinley for the 4th position. Churchill actually broke down very early on in the going in each of the 2 races at this track the past 2 years, so now that he's finally able to show what he can do here at Toledo Speedway, he is doing a very good job of it. Danny Vigo has fallen outside the top 10, and he gets spun into turn number 3 by Gordon Davis. They come back up the track and into the outside wall. John Bennett hits the 80 and Chris Washer piles in as well. The third caution of the race comes out with 14 laps to go. I don't know how Gordon Davis is going to explain this one. Here's a look at the replay. Vigo runs a bit wide off the corner, but they're halfway down the backstretch before Davis gets into the back of him, and he just dumps him into turn number 3. Poor John Bennett and Chris Washer had nowhere to go and not enough time to react. Davis just drove through the 80 like he wasn't even there. It's not like he checked up off the corner. Davis just got a better run, and instead of letting off or going to Vigo's inside, he just ran into the back of him and spun him up the track. I don't think that the officials are very happy at all with Gordon Davis. We've already mentioned how many silly accidents he's caused in the past, and I would imagine that he will be facing some repercussions for this one. The restart comes with just 7 laps to go. Jason Miller leads over Jack Clark, who was right on his bumper, but Danila Jacobson of the 57 truck had to restart 3rd in line. She came out of the pits just as the leaders took the caution, and therefore had to restart right in front of Brian Kelly. But fortunately for Kelly, Jacobson's a very courteous backmarker, moving to the outside and letting him on through right after the restart. She's going to let Michael McKinley go by as well. But ahead of them, Miller and Clark have made a clean getaway, and through turn 2, Miller runs very wide up the track and almost gets into the wall. He might have actually scraped it off the corner, but Jack Clark is now right alongside him and fighting for the lead. Miller runs a bit wide in turn 2 again. Clark clears him for the top spot, and the leaders take the yellow flag. The caution is out again, and with just 5 laps to go, that might have been the race for the win. Jack Clark takes the yellow flag as your leader, and it looks as if he is going to be your race winner here. Now let's take a look at what brought out the caution. Onboard Heaven Bradley in the back. Danny Vigo makes it 3 wide to her inside, while Nick Moss is on her outside and does not leave her enough room off the corner, pinching the 77 truck, and Vigo gets turned across the front of her and into the 74. Danny Vigo probably very upset about being wrecked from the 11th position by Gordon Davis, and aggressively trying to work his way back through the field with only 7 laps to go on the restart, but gets a little bit over-aggressive and turns himself across the front of Bradley and Moss. A big disappointment for last year's race winner, but once again, coming to take the yellow and the checkered flag at the same time, Jack Clark is going to score the first victory in his AST Voltson Super Trucks career, and what better place to do it than in front of his home crowd. This is the 3rd time in the series history that a race has been won by a hometown driver, and the first time that it's at a track other than Kalamazoo Speedway. The official results were not released until a few hours after the race this week, as opposed to the few minutes that it normally takes. It didn't affect the top 10 running order, but it's definitely worthy to note that Gordon Davis in the 32 truck was disqualified from the running order for his reckless actions during the race that caused 2 of the 4 cautions, and it probably has something to do with the fact that he has caused a few reckless accidents in the past as well. So, big disappointment for Davis and his team, but the officials have historically not been very tolerant of poor driving, and that is once again the case here today. Jason Miller has to settle for 2nd after essentially losing the race on the final half lap, but it's still a very good result for Miller, who scores his 5th top 3 finish in just 7 starts. And Brian Kelly in 3rd scores his 3rd top 3 finish in 5 starts. Not a lot of races between trucks number 40 and 6, but a lot of very good finishes. Michael McKinley has a great day of his own and finishes in 4th. Daryl Quick, the Flat Rock winner, works his way all the way up into 5th. He slowly worked his way up the running order throughout the day today and earns himself another top 5 finish. Zach Churchill has to settle for 6th. Hunter Blaze is the 8th truck to cross the line, but Blaze is actually going to be scored in the 7th position. Juan Cortez in the 94 initially crossed the line in 7th, but it was discovered after the race that his truck failed to meet the minimum weight, and Cortez was disqualified from the event, along with his teammate Alex DeFranco, who initially finished in 18th. DeFranco's truck also failed to meet the minimum weight. We have never seen a race in this series where any driver has been disqualified, and all of a sudden today, we have 3. So a very controversial turn of events after the race here. Hopefully it won't overshadow all the action that we saw on track today. Wilson Timothy gets moved up from a 9th to an 8th place finishing position. Amberly Weiss in 9th gets another top 10. And Camden Rhodes, who was initially scored 11th, now has the 2nd top 10 finish of his career.